Our friends, welcome to the channel. Bob here, and I've been looking through. I've been looking through patch notes, Everquest patch notes from the game's release, and I was looking through some interesting things that I looked at and picked out. I thought, that's quite interesting, and yeah, and then I thought, well, I might as well do a video on it. It might be quite interesting. I'm not quite sure what's going to be going on in the background. Probably just some gameplay footage that I've picked up with some other newbie characters that I've been testing, so that's probably what you'll see in the background. Anyway, yeah, onto the patch notes. I've gone through a number of patch notes, including ones on Alakazam on P99. I've done some searching and stuff, but there's some things that I can't find out that are not mentioned in the patch notes that we know happened. So yeah, that's a thing, but that's fine. We'll talk about that and work through that as we go. So game released like March 16th, 1999. Obviously, the first patch was on April the 6th, and it involved music issues with sound cards, frame rates. There was a corpse bug that made corpses disappear. Yeah, lots of things. I'm not going to cover all of them, but we'll go through and pick out some of the interesting ones. There was quite a lot of network issues at the start, and when the game was first released, and they mentioned that. So, yeah, that's a thing. The first thing that I came to, this patch is June the 7th, 1999, and it was talking about spawn rates in many outdoor areas have been increased. So this was, yeah, this was, where were we? Yeah, it's like roughly 3 months after release. They increased spawns in outdoor areas. Now, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not sure. I probably should have done some research beforehand, but I'm not sure if they've given away all the details yet. But it's interesting to see how they're going to implement the bugs on the green server. The patches on the green server. Are they going to, for example, like consolidate patches into a single patch for updates? Things like things that were obviously bug problem, things that were obviously spells, for example, that are obviously bugged. Are they going to wait to fix those in the timeline? These are all things that I'm not sure about, but yeah, spawn rates in many outdoor areas have been increased, so that's something that happened 3 months later. So if they stick with that, I'm going to assume that the outdoor newbie areas are going to be, yeah. It's potentially that mobs will be at a premium. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Another one here that I just noticed was charmed and feared characters can no longer use skills. So it's interesting. I guess in PvP, if you were charmed or feared, you could still use skills. Maybe. Not sure. Little funny one here as well. Poor old AMD. Red and blue armor will now appear the proper color for AMD users. Fair enough. Okay, so let's move on to some other ones that I picked out. There's one here. This was added. This is the same patch. No spell or effect that accelerates the process of mana regeneration will work on a bard. That's interesting. So, I guess it's saying that clarity and stuff doesn't work on a bard. Does it still not? I'm not sure, but that's an interesting one. They reduced the mana loss from fizzling. When you fizzle, you will lose less mana than before. Fizzle rate's not changed. There's now a cap on the amount of mana lost from any single fizzle. That was quite interesting. Eye of Zom will no longer work in conjunction with pets. You can now have one or the other. Sorry. So yeah, it was interesting. You could have an Eye of Zom out and a pet. I think that's magicians, right? Yeah. Still the same patch. All jewel craft, all jewelry has had increased magical properties. Pre-existing jewelry items remain unchanged. That's interesting. So there would be jewelry items knocking around with a lower stats, I guess, than later. They didn't change those. Yeah, that's quite interesting. We then move on to September 13th. Lots of bug fixes here. Spell changes. All players may now cancel the levitate effect. So that's interesting. When you were levitating, you couldn't cancel it for for about 6 months. So it'd be annoying if you got in a group and someone cast levitate on you, just as a bit of a troll. That would have been quite fun. Paralyzing Earth. now Wizard and Necromancer usable. So that was about 6 months in. What else have we got here? Just having a quick look through. Yeah, Screaming Terror started off as a fear. It was. I think it was. It says here Screaming Terror is now an all or nothing save. So I'm not sure how. Maybe before it was either. So maybe this change meant that it either stuck to its full duration or it was resisted completely. It said this should stop the train problems it was causing. Maybe someone else can, fill in on that. Dead Man Walking was renamed Dead Man Floating. That's quite an interesting one, I thought. What else have we got here? Yeah, there's a couple of changes too. There are some interesting ones that I remember. Now this is a weird one. This is the same September patch. It says now there is a new pet command: pet taunt and pet no taunt. Pets default to pet taunt. Now, looking at my notes here, there's a note from December which says pet taunt now works, and that's the thing I'm wondering. You know, I can't imagine that the P99 guys are gonna implement taunt as broken. Doesn't seem. What's the point? So, will they introduce taunt in this patch? Will they not introduce it until it was fixed, or will these patches be, kind of put together? Will these patches be condensed together so that you get one big patch rather than all these little patches? I'm really not sure. It's something that is really interesting. There's a pet things here, some pet changes here. High level pets, 45th and 49th level spells do less damage. This is an interesting one. This is one of the ones that I remember. This is still from September. Yeah, it's still from the September patch. This is the dot change. So dot changes. If the monster is in melee with you, there is no change to how a dot spell works. If the monster is running away from you, so feared or wounded, there is no change. If the monster is moving when the damage from the dots is applied, it will take 66% of the damage that it would have taken. And this was one that really only affects shamans. And this was a nerf that was brought in, I think, specifically for shamans. Because I didn't play a shaman much back on live, but I do remember shamans loading up dots on mobs much higher level than them. And then just kiting them around with Spirit of Wolf, obviously, until they died. Whether that was more efficient than just killing more lower level mobs, I'm not sure, but I remember shamans doing that. And considering the only other class that really uses dots is a Necromancer, and Necromancer can fear mobs or root them where there's no change. Yeah, I think that was something that I guess a Necromancer could have also got Spirit Wolf and just run around, but I seem to remember shamans doing that. So yeah, that. So I'm assuming at the start shamans will be able to will be able to dot mobs for a period of time, and the mobs take full damage if they're chasing you. Below that it does say dot spells have had all their durations slightly increased. If the monster moves for 18 seconds during a fight, it would take as much damage from the dot as it would before the patch. If the monster moves for less than 18 seconds, your dot will do more damage. Okay, yes, so yeah, dots would change generally. Illusion Werewolf in charge now stacks with other attack speed spells. The Lich spell will now provide more mana. There are lots of changes. Lots and lots of changes. Paralysing Earth can now be scribed by Necromancers. So I'm wondering if that was a change that happened in... Was that a change that happened in a previous patch? But maybe it didn't work. So the other one I remember is... I played a Druid quite a lot. And Snaring Roots, the Druid Root spell, used to do the damage after the root. So it would root the mob and then it would apply damage, which would sometimes break the root, which was pointless. But looking at my notes here, that wasn't fixed for about a year before they applied the damage part of the spell before the root part. So again, interesting to see how they're going to implement and when they implement these things. September 28th, so we're looking at well, yeah, 6 months later, I guess, it's now possible to manually reorganise icons within the spell book. So for a period of time, wherever you put your spells, I guess that's where they stay in the book. Here's an interesting one. Experience and looting rights is now awarded based on group aggregate damage. If a group's combined damage is greater than the individual player, the group members will be given the XP. Yeah, so again, this is something that I don't remember, but what seems to have happened is that if you had a group in a group, and then someone came along and tried to, I don't know, out damage the group. I think the way it worked was that it was quite possible for the individual to out damage the group, because before this change, the group's damage, it wasn't combined as a group. So what would have happened was that it would look at the individual group members' damage and then the individual who was trying to out damage them's damage and compare it that way. So that was a change. It happened 6 months later. And actually, it mentions it in that September patch, but then it doesn't say. Oh, actually, no. We're gathering results of data, so it's not until October that this patch was introduced. I'm not sure. It says here Rubicite armor will no longer spawn in the October patch, and new class-specific quests to obtain armor are now in for each class. So I guess that was like the totemic armor for shamans, maybe, and stuff. It also says Journeyman boots will no longer spawn where they did, but rather the product of a quest. Okay. Now the thing that I can't find is when Mana Stone was dropped, because it was. I'm covering the first year here essentially of patches, roughly. Yeah, but for all the patch notes that I've looked at, I can't find them actually a mention of Mana Stone. You're probably looking at it right now and thinking, "It's there, Bob, for God's sake!" But I can't find it, and I did actually do some research, and I can't find the date when Mana Stone was removed. So yeah, not sure about that. But Rubicite and Journeyman boots was changed in the October 13 patch. So yeah, 7 months later, 6-7 months later, roughly. This was interesting. The Burnout series used to have a negative hit point component. So you cast Burnout and it used to reduce the hit points of your pet by the looks of it. And the stat buff increased. So it increased. And the spell's no longer permanent. So Burnout used to be permanent with a hit point debuff. They're now 50-minute duration. I remember people talking on forums like, how long does Burnout last? Got no idea. So I guess it's telling you how it works. I think, and also looking at my notes, at some point later on in over the next few months, I think they released the they removed the negative hit point component completely, it seems. So yeah, and then we get into your Kunark release. There's something here, monk enhancements, it says. The Feigned Death changes, which were mentioned on November the 16th, are now live. This is December the 1st. I can't find what these changes were exactly, but it's something to do with how mobs forgot you. So when you... I'm not sure if when you feigned, if you were being attacked by a group, they just all forgot you, or if and then that changed so that each individual mob had a chance to forget you. I think it was also a level thing as well, where past a certain level and whatnot. If you're an experienced monk with that information, then yeah, please let me know. It'd be interesting. This is an interesting one. The pet bug, where if you have a pet, certain monsters can attack its owner anywhere in the zone, have been fixed. So I can't find mention of the pet bug in notes, but is this from? If this is from release, that's mental, pretty much. It's taken them, like 9. I don't know if this was a bug from. I'm not sure if this was a bug from release. So if you're a magician, you cast a pet. Certain monsters can attack its owner anywhere in the zone. I'm not sure if that was a bug from the start, or if it was something that was introduced and then they fixed it quickly. I'm not sure about that, but that sounds nasty. Yeah, you're just a magician sitting there and suddenly the mobs start attacking you, and from anywhere in the zone. That's pretty scary. Here's the Screaming Terror. The Screaming Terror has changed. They changed it to a mesmerise spell, basically. Yeah. which I think was probably a good change for Necromancers, because already had fear spells. So yeah, we're now on to in December 7th. Brad McQuaid made a post on the forums. I'm not sure if this was in conjunction. I'm not sure if this was in. He's got a little statement here that mentions the word nerf quite a lot of times. I'm not sure if people were moaning at this point about nerfs and stuff, but he did a little post talking about. This is December the 7th, 1999. He did a little post talking about pluses and minuses added to characters. So wizards, all pluses, basically. Rangers, all pluses. Druids, you've got the minus dot change. That's a negative according to him. Paladins, all pluses. Shadow Knights, the dot change. Any class with a dot has got this negative. But Paladins were all positives. Spell changes, added life taps. So Shadow Knights didn't have life. It's interesting. I'm going to talk about this as well as we go further down. But Shadow Knights didn't have life taps initially. Plus minus Feign Death changes. Shadow Knight better for low level characters, better for high level once learning curve passed. So he's got that as a plus and a minus. So it's better for low level characters plus, and it's better for high level once learning curve has passed. Okay, change to pet appearances. Not sure if that was the different coloured skeletons maybe. That's that's quite interesting. Monks, yep. Feign Death is the only minus. Necros, there are a number of mostly pluses, number of minuses. The interesting was I wanted to talk about actually was the fact that Necromancers seem to have had a charm anything spell for a period of time. It says here removed charm, so I think they had a spell that was just called charm, and I think it worked on anything initially. So I guess at some point that was changed to undead only. The other interesting one as a shaman is that they also had removed charm spell. So initially when the game first run up, shamans and necromancers seem to have had a charm spell that charmed everything. I guess the necromancers was changed to undead, and the shamans was changed to animals. So it's going to be interesting to see if this is in the game at the start, because being able to charm stuff as a shaman early on will be. I'm not sure if maybe you still got the spell at the same time, which was later. One of the minuses here, moving down, all casters. There's an all casters minus. That's removal of mana stone, but I can't find when that is basically from a date point of view. So yeah. Lots of he's got lots of pluses and minuses. He's under like a general halved experience, lost death penalty, minus removal of weightless box spawn. I can't remember, is that the box of Al Kabor or something? I can't remember what box that is basically. But it's funny, you get down to December the 8th and the pet, it says pet no taunt and pet taunt now works. So that's the thing I was talking about. It wasn't working for quite a long period of time. So are they going to Screaming Terror's now functioning as intended, so that wasn't working properly. So are they going to have these broken spells as they were until they get fixed? A number of spears available for the shaman class. That was quite interesting. Yes, that's it really. So I'm interested to see how they're going to implement them, and how they're going to implement them. At what time will they actually be the patches on the dates when they were supposed to happen, or are they going to just group certain patches together and just do them all at once? Will necromancers and shamans be able to charm stuff from the off for a period of time? Will they leave ensnaring routes for druids broken until it was fixed? We don't know. It's all interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they implement all this stuff. That's going to be the most interesting thing. I'm not sure if there's been any updated information, so I probably should have a look. But those are just some of the patch changes that I think are quite interesting, and it'd be interesting to see how they implement them. Looking forward to it. I don't envy them, to be honest with you. Trying to stick to a patch timeline when there are clearly things that should have been fixed from the start will be interesting. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.